Iran's digital diplomats have hit post with a purpose. Ever since high-stakes U.S.-Iran talks collapsed in Islamabad after more than 21 hours of negotiations, Iran's online messaging has shifted into overdrive, mixing official diplomacy with sarcasm, memes, and coordinated mockery aimed squarely at Washington. The strategy has been striking, not just for its tone, but for where it's coming from. Verified embassy accounts and government-linked media networks amplifying a narrative that Iran stood firm, the United States blinked, and President Donald Trump's policies wobbling under pressure. The collapse of the Islamabad meeting, described by both sides as substantive but ultimately inconclusive, has left the region hovering over a fragile truce, while the information war rages on in real time across X, Instagram, TikTok, Telegram, and beyond. In this parallel battle, Iran and pro-Iran voices are trying to win something, even if they can't win at the negotiating table: legitimacy, momentum, and narrative control. At the heart of the standoff is the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow maritime choke point that has become both a symbol and a weapon in this confrontation. The strait is central to global energy flows, and in this crisis, it has also become the central prop in an escalating campaign of online ridicule, one that paints Washington as confused, reactive, and desperate to reclaim the initiative. Iran's embassies have been especially aggressive, posting content that reads less like traditional diplomatic statements and more like late-night satire, tight, cutting, and engineered for virality. From West Africa, the Iranian embassy in Ghana took aim at what it framed as erratic U.S. decision-making. One of its posts targeted the president directly with the line, "Iranian embassy in Ghana said, empires used to fall in centuries. This one can't hold a policy for an afternoon." The message was blunt. Iran wants the world to see America not as a steady superpower, but as a country lurching from threat to threat, announcement to announcement. The same account followed up with another jab designed to land with anyone tracking the back and forth over maritime pressure and access. Iranian embassy in Ghana wrote, "Breaking, in a brave move, the U.S. just announced it's blocking a strait it's been blocked from." The misspelling of strait was preserved in the post and quickly became part of the online joke, because the ridicule wasn't just about policy. It was about competence. Southeast Asia joined in, too. Iran's embassy in Thailand posted that Washington's latest move was so absurd it had outpaced even internet meme culture. Iranian embassy in Thailand posted, "The new move from Trump against our country is so comical that we don't even have a meme for it." Then it escalated into a direct callback to a viral Trump typo circulating online, twisting it into an insult with a diplomatic signature attached. Iranian embassy in Thailand wrote, "A wise man once said, 'Open the strait or I will co-fete.' Thank you for your attention to this matter." The posts were crafted like punchlines, but they were also doing strategic work, turning a sensitive, high-stakes dispute into a spectacle where Iran claims the confident role and the U.S. plays the flustered foil. In West Africa, again, Iran's embassy in Sierra Leone pushed the tone from satire into outright derision, directing a message at U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, who led the American delegation in Islamabad. Alongside a video, the account wrote, Iran's embassy in Sierra Leone posted, "It pains to imagine Ghalibaf had to sit across the table from this joker." The reference was to Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, Iran's influential parliamentary speaker and a major power broker in Tehran, someone Iran supporters increasingly present as a steady hand in wartime decision-making. But the online campaign isn't limited to embassies. It also runs through a fast-growing ecosystem of pro-Iran accounts and media collectives that produce stylized videos, AI-generated clips, and rapid response memes, often tailored for maximum shareability. One of the most prominent of these groups, Explosive Media, has built a brand around AI-crafted videos styled like the Lego movie, using blocky toy-like characters to mock U.S. leaders and dramatize conflict scenarios. The format is intentionally disarming, humor and pop culture aesthetics masking propaganda objectives, and it has proven effective at racking up millions of views. Now that operation has run into platform enforcement, Explosive Media says its YouTube account has been suspended, a move the group claims is an attempt to silence its message. According to its own statements, it remains active elsewhere, pointing followers toward X, Instagram, TikTok, Telegram, and a mix of smaller or less regulated platforms. The message to supporters is clear. If one door closes, the content will simply flow to the next open feed. The timing matters. The takedown comes amid a pause in the fighting, an uneasy ceasefire that followed weeks of conflict and a surge of disruption across global energy markets. While the guns may have quieted temporarily, both sides are still fighting to define what happened, why it happened, and who blinked. Iran's messaging frames the ceasefire not as a concession, but as proof that Tehran can absorb pressure, withstand strikes, and still dictate terms. U.S. messaging, meanwhile, is focused on limiting Iran's nuclear pathway and forcing explicit commitments that it will not pursue a nuclear weapon. That clash of priorities is exactly what surfaced publicly in remarks from Vice President Vance after the Islamabad session ended without a deal. In one of the most closely watched moments, he described what Washington demanded and what it believes Tehran refused. J.D. Vance said, "The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement." He argued the talks were serious but not successful, blaming the gap on Iran's unwillingness to accept U.S. terms. Then he laid out the core American condition, tying it directly to nuclear capability rather than rhetorical assurances. J.D. Vance said, "We need to see an affirmative commitment that they will not seek a nuclear weapon and that they will not seek the tools that would enable them to quickly achieve one." In Washington's framing, it's not enough for Iran to say what it believes it has the right to do. The focus is on what Iran can do and how fast. Vance also pushed back on Iran's repeated insistence that enrichment is a sovereign right. He illustrated the point with a personal analogy meant to signal that claimed rights don't override negotiated constraints. J.D. Vance said, "We refuse to give up the right to enrichment." Then, explaining the U.S. approach, he added, J.D. Vance said, "We don't really concern ourselves with what they claim they have the right to do. We concern ourselves with what they actually do." And I think the president's been very clear on the enrichment question. Our position on that has not changed. Iran's official line sounded different, less final, more calibrated for patience. Tehran publicly signaled that a single marathon meeting was never expected to end a war and resolve the nuclear file all at once. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman framed the Islamabad talks as a step in a longer process, emphasizing the context of mistrust after weeks of fighting. Ismail Baghai said these negotiations were held after 40 days of imposed war and in an atmosphere of mistrust and suspicion. It is natural that we should not have expected to reach an agreement in a single meeting. No one expected that. The message was diplomatic, but also political. Iran wants audiences, domestic and international, to see it as the rational actor, not the party storming away. Still, the online campaign suggests Iran is not merely managing expectations, it's exploiting the moment. The embassy posts and meme content are meant to turn the failure of talks into a victory lap, portraying the U.S. delegation as having traveled far, stayed long, and left empty-handed. That framing appeared directly in social posts attributed to Iranian diplomatic accounts, casting the meeting as proof that Washington could not secure through negotiations what it failed to secure through force. In this narrative, the United States brought threats, deadlines, and demands, and Iran simply said no. And hovering over it all is President Trump's posture in the aftermath. As Trump weighs next steps, publicly floating tougher maritime pressure, including the idea of a blockade, Iran's online ecosystem has seized on the apparent contradiction. If the strait is already effectively constrained, what does it mean for the U.S.? To declare it is now blocking it, Iran's messaging suggests it means Washington is trying to rebrand a setback as an initiative. In the Iranian meme framing, this is America declaring control over a situation it can't fully control and announcing decisive action after being outmaneuvered, especially if Iran can still shape shipping risks through mines, drones, or proxy capabilities. That's why the jokes keep circling back to the same theme: policy reversals, unclear objectives, and performative announcements. In Iran's preferred storyline, the U.S. entered this crisis expecting quick results and ended up trapped between escalation and diplomacy, unable to secure a deal, unwilling to accept Iran's enrichment demands, and forced to consider military options that carry enormous regional and global risk. And because the ceasefire is fragile and time-bound, both countries are now operating on two clocks at once: the military clock of deterrence and readiness and the media clock of virality and perception. Iran's embassies are choosing the second clock with astonishing intensity, treating social feeds as an extension of state power. This isn't random trolling. It's message discipline disguised as humor, distributed through official accounts, optimized for sharing, and reinforced by AI-driven propaganda networks that can flood timelines faster than governments can respond. For audiences watching from the outside, it can look like entertainment. For the governments involved, it's not. It's soft power, psychological pressure, and digital diplomacy designed to weaken the other side's credibility while strengthening one's own resolve. The war may have paused. The narrative war hasn't. In fact, as the negotiations stall and the next phase of decision-making approaches, whether renewed talks, renewed strikes, or renewed brinkmanship, the online battlefield is becoming a key front in shaping what happens next, who appears strong, who appears desperate, and which story the world believes when the next crisis headline hits.